If you've seen my YouTube video from last week, you know that I took my most recent artwork down to the beach to publicly interview people about it. To me as an artist, it's a fun way to start putting my work out there and also trigger people a little bit just because I don't have a problem with approaching strangers. The piece I'm talking about is this thing right here. It's called Industry Plant. I don't have the actual artwork here with me anymore because it's already shipped off to its owner. But for this video, I'm gonna go over some details, explain the work, some hidden references, and some other things you might have questions about. From the beginning on, this was a commissioned piece, so there are a lot of references that are personal to the current owner that I was asked to include. Or how I usually work is that I ask for references, because what I love about my art is so much that every piece I create for myself is so personal to me and referencing my childhood, things that have meaning to me, that if I'm in the position to create a commissioned work for a specific individual and I have the opportunity to speak to this person first, I would want to include some of the things that remind them of their childhood, just to make sure that they really get that nostalgic and captivating feeling that I always get when looking at my pieces. Now, first things first, this piece is by far not as large as the previous one. This one is around 14 by 19 inches. It's a great size to literally hang up in any home, especially once you put it in a nice frame with a nice mat. Just like in most of my works, there's a lot going on here. The main reference for this artwork was the 1940 Disney film Fantasia. I grew up watching Fantasia. I'm sure a lot of other people did as well. It's a very specific Disney film. It's where that extremely well-known image of Mickey dressed up in that wizard costume comes from. It has all these famous sequences with the brooms. It's partially set in a castle in a basement. I don't know, that's how I interpreted it. And to be honest, the overall energy of this film, at least to me, has always been a little bit ominous. Maybe that's just how I perceived magic when I was younger, but yeah, that was the main reference. From the beginning on, I was like, I need to include a staircase somewhere. Because when I think of Fantasia, I see the brooms walking up the stairs and everything is kind of escalating and Mickey doesn't know what to do. So that's what I did. I included the staircase, and on the staircase is a broom that's pretty obviously from Fantasia. And that staircase goes up one level and then it just, that's a whole other chapter. Also, the door to the left, the big stones around it, these aren't really images from Fantasia, but it's what I picked from my mind stylistically when I thought of that film. So overall, the composition was inspired by Fantasia. To continue with the Disney chapter, of course, just like in almost every piece of mine, there are hidden Disney references. You have long machine arms with Mickey gloves coming out of the darkness. You have this ominous snake dragon-like plant that has a sinister Mickey head on it. And then you have this kind of large animatronic Thumper. Thumper is a lot of people's favorite character from Disney's Bambi. But anyways, I love how this turned out. By using industrial textures that show that the bunny is made of metal, glass, or anything else but actual flesh and fur, the whole scene, at least to me, just looks even more abandoned and scary. I feel like this element looks like something that was part of an amusement park at one point, or just something that has most definitely been left behind. It's been through a lot of weathering. One of the eyes has broken out. Other parts are broken as well. I'm extremely happy with how this animatronic Thumper turned out. It's definitely also one of the main eye catchers in the piece just because it's so unique. I was specifically asked to include a Pingu reference. Now, I don't know if Pingu is a globally known thing. It's a 6-season series from 1986. It's stop motion. It's about this penguin. It obviously is all made out of clay. I visually recognized it, but I don't think I've ever actually seen an episode, but it meant something to the current owner, so I included a little hidden reference. Of course, I had to twist it a little bit, so the head is off, the arm is broken off, there's some stuff oozing out, but if you know, you know. Pingu is there. Another very specific, even older reference I was asked to include is Calimero, which is a 2-season series from 1963. I have never seen this before. The whole thing is about this black bird that lives in his eggshell. Also, this little dotted bag that he carries around is a clear reference to the series. The last very specific reference I was asked to include is Barbar the Elephant, which is from 1931. It's about this elephant with a crown. And again, I made it a little dark and not too obvious because I don't want my art to just be a collection of random cartoon characters. So I buried him in the ground halfway and I elongated his nose to an extent where it looks like a snake, not even like an elephant's nose. And again, it's like a if you know thing. Otherwise, you just think it's a random element that my crazy mind added. But yeah, Barbar is there, Calimero is there, Pingu is there, and the rest I would have included regardless. Now let's move on to the other elements that I randomly added. I decided to call it industry plant because when I just started creating the work, that's a term I came across. Here's the definition of industry plant. Pause the video and take a moment to read through it. It resonated a lot with me because I have never come across a term that allowed me to summarize a concept in literally a word or two, and it hits the nail right on the head. So I incorporated something that looks a bit like a slot machine. I honestly can't tell you exactly what it is, but whatever lingerie the thing is wearing was inspired by the iconic Jean-Paul Gaultier outfit that Madonna used to wear in the 80s. I feel like if you see it, you can't unsee it, but if you don't know, then you just think it's lingerie. But I love that. I love playing with the if you know, you know factor. I do have to say the joystick of that whole thing has on purpose been placed where a dick would be. So, you know, I'm just playing with elements here. I'm just having my fun with my art. I included Rapunzel's tower and her hair swinging down somewhere in the back. I included the usual drum. I included the usual dead person hanging. I included the usual element of time. I included play cards far in the back. It was actually very interesting because a lot of the people I interviewed also said that it reminds them of Alice in Wonderland. I assume that's because they didn't recognize that the rabbit was Thumper from Bambi. But once I finished the work, I recognized I included play cards, I included a bunny, I included generally elements that do go very well with Tim Burton's visualization of Alice in Wonderland. An element that I used to use a lot more in my art than I currently do right now is milk boxes. And I did include it in this one. I added a random bird's beak in there. So there are so many hidden elements. I just love it. It's so therapeutic to create. There are hidden worlds. There are cracks in the wall. As always, I love to work with industrial textures to really bring across that abandoned feeling. I also pushed myself to experiment a little bit more with perspective. And since the piece is called Industry Plant, I wanted to include literal plant elements. Whatever's coming out at the end of that slot machine thing I created, the intention was to have something that looks a little bit like a snaky beanstalk with thorns and whatever. I think that was pretty successful. Then of course the whole plant pot with the grass and the piece of grass like a puzzle piece cut out. The actual plant that looks like a dragon snake with the Mickey head. So I really wanted to play with the literal meaning of plant as well. I included a gramophone, I included a jester, hat, box, clown, whatever you want to call it, because to me, and I feel like a lot of people relate to this, clowns have a very bittersweet situation going on. Like I don't find them funny, I don't find them scary either, but I don't know, they just do not seem as happy as they pretend to be. So in this environment, it definitely adds an eerie feel to the artwork. This time I did not incorporate an entire hand or arm, I just incorporated some fingers. I again incorporated a machine that kind of looks like a car. And comparing this piece to some of the earlier works I've done, I can clearly see how I've improved my skill of paying attention to detail and also executing that detail on paper. At least that's what I see. Like I'm not giving myself a tap on the shoulder. I'm just thinking out loud and trying to share my thought process with you guys. Alright guys, and with that being said, we're already at the end of the explanation for the artwork Industry Plant. If you have any more questions about the piece, feel free to drop them down in the comments below. I'm happy to answer all of them. This is my work, I'm extremely passionate about it, so it really excites me if you guys express interest. Like I always say, if you're genuinely interested in acquiring one of my pieces, feel free to reach out over Instagram. I read all of my DMs and I answer all the appropriate ones. With that being said, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for showing love. Thank you for showing support. See you soon and take care. Bye.